I bet.
Hey guys, this video is going to be about RLD versus melee cleaves. Okay, so in this first clip it's going to be Holy Paladin, Warrior and Rogue. Now for some reason, as they come out of the gates, the Rogue comes out stealth, so this means we can get a really good opener, because my Druid fairy fires the Rogue after he's sapped, and I can get full dots up. The Warrior charges into me, and roots me behind the pillar, so I want to get dots up on him, to try and put a bit more pressure on this Paladin. My Rogue used an addons, and is already getting their Rogue a bit low, so I'm going to come out and get Demon Soul dots back up onto him. To try and stop this melee cleave getting any pressure, my Druid puts the Warrior into a cyclone, so we can just hit this Rogue freely, and I can push up for a fear on the Paladin. To start with, I'm going to fear the Warrior out of the cyclone to force his Berserker Rage so that later on I can get a full fear on him if I want. I then put the Paladin into a full fear, which he has to trinket. So far a lot hasn't really gone on. We've been on their Rogue, they've been on ours, but here, with no trinket on the Paladin, my Druid gets a full cyclone, so we can really get some pressure going onto this team. With this, and the Rogue having just cloaked, I full dot the Warrior, who's just popped wreck, so my Druid's going to trank to try and keep me and the Rogue up at the same time. They now seem to have realised that going on our Rogue doesn't really work, and so they're going to try and connect on our Druid. I see this, and I run in and howl a terror the Warrior and the Rogue off, and soul swap to the Rogue. This also forced the Rogue's trinket, and now no one on their team has a trinket, so we're in a really good position, and I'm going to push up and get a fear on the Paladin again, while we dance on this Rogue. As my fear ends, my Rogue's going to use a smoke bomb, because I call that I got charged and I'm not going to be able to get the second fear. So, with this, the Paladin can't heal the Rogue, and the Rogue just goes down, having already cheated death. So that's the basic overview of this game. We just kind of sat on the Rogue and killed him with CC on the Paladin, but I'm going to rewind and go back to some really crucial bits of the game that I want to talk about. Okay, so here, I can see my Druids at the bottom of the stairs, and I know their Rogue's going to vanish, and I see the Warrior start moving towards the Druid. So I already know this swap's coming, so I start moving back to my Druid, and I'm going to use a Howl of Terror, which the Warrior can't Berserker Rage because I forced that earlier, and I soul swap to the Rogue so that he can't get dispelled out of the fear without risking the UA, and this forces the Rogue's trinket. With the Rogue having trinketed, we're then going to put a swap onto him, and then fear the Paladin, and that is going to score us the kill in the end. This also meant my Druid didn't take any damage really, because he was able to run away from the swap and travel form. And this is what I was talking about in my earlier overview guide, about preventing the damage. Playing this comp, you really do want to get a strong opener, to let your Druid keep on top of the healing. Here, as I mentioned earlier, the Rogue made a mistake, and we get a sap on him, and this means that we can just get a really good opener naturally. So I'm going to pop Demon Soul and start getting dots on this Rogue. Fortunately, the Warrior charges to me as well, but I think they meant to go on our Druid, because the Rogue stepped to him, and our Rogue's going to open up onto their Rogue to stop this damage coming through on our Druid, so we can get this really strong opener. As I now have Demon Soul dots on the Warrior, and Corruption and Bane of Agony on the Rogue, which I'm then going to put a UA on as soon as I can move. In the next clip I'm going to show you, we don't get such a great opener, but I'm going to show you how we still recover. I'm going to lay down my paw, and then as I get sapped, so does their Paladin. My Rogue just decides to open up on the Warrior to stop them getting on me. The Rogue then goes to open on our Rogue, as he realised what we were doing, and that they weren't going to be able to connect on me properly. So I run in and Howl of Terror to stop this pressure early, and force the Rogue's trinket. They, however, drop our Rogue quite a bit, and use the first smoke bomb, so my Rogue dances to peel, their Warrior storms. Now here, I notice the Paladin's run over to me, and I know he's just going to try and rebuke whatever my next cast is, so I'm just instantly going to stop casting my Drain Life as soon as I do, faking his rebuke, allowing me to put him into a full fear which forces his trinket, and then into a half fear to create pressure. Off that half fear, my Druid cloned, and the Warrior just died in it, and that's how easy it is to score kills with this, and that's why I love playing with a Druid, because they can just provide that extra CC which just gets you the kill, before the Paladin could even use other cooldowns such as Guardian. Melee cleaves can be quite difficult for this comp, as they can often just tunnel into the Druid or the Warlock to shut down your damage as the Warlock, which really does put you in a bad situation, but when played properly, you can win every time. The next clip is going to be against a KFC. Now, you'll notice how in nearly every one of these clips, every kill has come from the CC I've put out as a Warlock. But I need to be careful about when I'm trying to use this CC. For instance, I know this KFC is going to do a lot of damage, so I'm going to go into Demon Armor at the start, and I'm not going to put myself right next to the Shaman, because that'll put me in a bad spot for a swap. Already as I push in slightly, they swap to me, and I'm just going to have to try and get dots out here and get some pressure before I focus on my CC. Now here, I noticed the warrior's used his charge, so I'm just going to port up to try and allow myself some time to get dots out and allow my druid some breathing room while he sits in a full trap. But this KFC doesn't mess around, and they instantly swap to our rogue and drop him really quickly, so I'm forced to come back. Now here, my rogue and druid called they were fine, so I'm going to trust them, and I just put the shaman into a full fear to force tremor, and then I get a half fear off that while the warrior's in a kidney. They then swap to our druid, and they're putting him under a lot of pressure, so we're going to have to try and do the same and force them defensive through our damage, because this team isn't going to worry about being peeled because they're playing with a resto shaman, and I can't really fear a warrior that reliably. They then try swapping to me again, but we force a deterrence from the hunter, and I kite the warrior back out of range of the hunter and let the warrior drop a bit to dots. Here isn't really my time to push in and try and get some CC, but my rogue did manage to force a spirit link, and the warrior has trinketed, and he's pushed quite far back, so we're going to look for a swap on him with full dots and horn. Now that with our damage we've got them defensive again, I'm meant to push in and get some CC. That's exactly what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to get dots on this hunter, but I get charged as I'm running in to fear this shaman. So I'm going to try and fake pummel, which unfortunately I didn't really manage to do. The warrior was quite good at locking a really early cast, but as soon as that duration ends, I'm going to try and fear. I get sheared, and my druid's in a full trap. Now I know that I'm not going to be getting CC on this shaman now, so I just use my howl to buy myself a few seconds with the warrior, and I drop really low in this CC. But the warrior has just used his charge, so I port, and then I have to jump off and get into my druid's range as the trap ends. But unfortunately the warrior leaped to me, but the hunter has gone back. So that my druid can safely pick me up, he just clones the warrior, and then we're going to swap on this warrior because we notice he's really pushed in here, and he's got full dots. So the shaman runs in here to try and, heal him up, but he gets cloned on the way, trinkets, and before he can even get anything done, the warrior's just dead. Again, this was an example of how a really bad opener you can still recover, because we got a sat, but our rogue got knocked out of stealth by flare, and they just put out a lot of pressure on us really early on. This also shows just how powerful swaps can be, and how crucial they are, because as soon as that warrior overextended, we swapped him, and we got the kill. So just a few final pointers on any physical based damage team. Don't underestimate the damage they can put out, and preventing damage is always more important than just letting it happen and making your druid try and catch up, especially when he gets CC'd. With that in mind, this comp really can reward excellent play and is incredibly fun to play. That about concludes it for this video on RLD versus physical based damage comps. If you have any questions or feedback, please leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to reply.